Welcome to the Innovation and Compliance Podcast, part of the Compliance Podcast Network. Join us every week as we talk with industry innovators who are making compliance to help business run more efficiently and at the end of the day, more profitably. Here's your host, Tom Fox.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, back for another episode. And today I have with me Jeff Kushner. Jeff is the Chief Marketing Officer at Allgress, which is a leading vendor that automates risk and compliance management with simplicity and quick time to value. Today, we're going to visit about the always difficult issue of bringing a technological solution to your risk management portfolio. So, Jeff, with that incredibly long-winded introduction, first of all, welcome, and thank you for taking the time to visit with me today.
Well, thank you, Tom. Indeed, technology has really made some turns and twists, and I'm going to attempt to address that today. And so my goal is to talk about the pervasive need for continued innovation and compliance. Before we start, let me introduce myself. As Tom said, I'm Jeff Kushner, and I'm currently the Chief Marketing Officer at Allgress, a leading vendor which automates compliance management with simplicity and quick time to value. I focus on our marketing strategy, our branding, positioning, and marketing communications. My 30 years of experience spans a variety of leadership roles in technology and marketing, business development at such companies as Sun Microsystems, now part of Oracle, BMC Software, and BindView, now part of Symantec, to name a few. Before Allgress, and as we continue, my efforts have been instrumental in advancing the innovation for the development and adoption of application, compliance, and risk management technology and solutions. So to kick off this podcast, one of the biggest challenges we face today is the use of manual methods and lack of understanding how automation can help, especially in the corporate compliance function. And this long-time practice and challenge is the ability to keep pace with the Madrid of workflows and processes required, which leads to constant firefighting, fines, increased costs, and loss of accountability. That's why reducing business risk with innovation has become a top priority for organizations and their business partner. The challenge of managing compliance and risk, as you know, in the business environment today can really be summed up by one word, and that's in capital letters, change. Change that continuously impacts business risk in every way. Organizations' expectations of accountability, technological change, the adoption of cloud computing, the Internet of Things, business evolution, and of course, new and changing regulations like the introduction of CCPA that will be coming up soon at the beginning of next year, and of course, partner requirements. The factor of everything being continuous moving target adds to those complications. And as a point of reference and validation of the need for innovation and compliance, I want to reference a few points that have been highlighted in a recent report by Thomson Reuters called Cost of Compliance 2019, 10 Years of Regulatory Change. Kind of paraphrasing, their executive summary points out that regulatory change and more onerous regulatory and reporting remains the single biggest challenge for compliance officers and boards in the year ahead. They go on to say the enhanced role for compliance within the business is becoming more important. They talk about compliance budgets are expected to continue to rise, but staffing will continue to stay stagnant. I think is a real key point here. But compliance challenges are growing, and so is personal liability of compliance staff and executives. And that is really a good start to as we start talking about what can you do to try to get ahead of some of these changes using innovation. So you need to look at how do you approach managing these rapid changes to identifying a potential impact before the red light goes on or the phone actually rings. And that's because you need to start effectively managing this evolution efficiently and cost effectively by reducing complexity as we move in the era of primarily cloud computing. At the same time, needing to adhere to regulations and staying within our desired risk posture by protecting our most valuable assets. And so, how do you approach finding out where you stand so you can plan for that desired outcome and become better with what you have in place today, or look for a solution that will advance your objectives? So first and foremost, you need to know what risk and compliance objectives you're trying to meet today and potentially in the future. You not only have to think about the requirements for your own organization, you also need to consider what you may need to comply with business partner obligations or vice versa, as we live in this distributed ecosphere of business. Secondly, is you have to look at what are you doing today and what would make it more efficient, timely, more effective, and make you more aware of risks before they actually do cause that impact or that red light. Can you quickly measure where you stand with what you currently have by looking at your inherent risk or residual risk? What is acceptable and how do you stay on top of it? Well, next is you have to take the information you have and represent it in a way that different stakeholders can understand to make those factual business decisions that are so critical. Once you have a better understanding of your required risk and compliance posture, then you need to evaluate, is the solution you're using today and processes that you have in place allow you to meet those objectives accurately and with accountability? As we just mentioned in the last report, that liability is becoming more of an issue, especially with board of directors and actually individual contributors. And last but not least, it's important to select a solution that allows you to easily collect, analyze, communicate, and remediate or accept compliance risk with the least amount of manual effort by implementing automated methods, and which we'll talk more about in a minute. This also gives you the capability so different information sources can be correlated and represented in an integrated risk and compliance management dashboard so you can see where you stand. If you're like most organizations, you're probably using spreadsheets, homegrown applications, old archaic solutions, or a combination of all of these, which are very manual in nature and present some inherent risks themselves. The method of compliance brings many challenges, such as keeping it current, the potential of human error, consolidating the information, and accountability, because when you're using spreadsheets, you have little to no change control, emailing documents from person to person, or updates on a portal. You just don't know where it is, when it's been last updated. And thinking about the processes of standard or a framework like COSO or others, they're being updated continuously, or you experience that you have to track a change. And along with some of these other areas that I've mentioned, it affects your adherence to that standard framework, best practice, or partner requirements. And so, how long of a time period do you have to make these changes, get those processes in place, re-audit and evaluate the results, and communicate whether you need to take action? That's the big question, is when these changes occur, in whether the processes you're using to get the information, collecting the information, and evaluating it, you have to be able to get to the point where you can take some action in the period of time that creates the least impact to your business. So that begs the question, how do you determine where you stand quicker so you know how your compliance risk posture compares to what's acceptable? Because we all know there's no such thing as no risk at all. We're all going to take some, and we have to decide what is acceptable. So the answer is making the process of collecting, analyzing, communicating, and remediating or deciding that you're going to live with the risk with the least amount of manual effort by implementing an automated platform or considering it for compliance risk management to more efficiently and effectively identify risks before they cause impact. And that's the key thing here, reducing the potential of business impact and doing it in a quick and concise manner. So with that in mind, if what you have in place doesn't meet what you really need, you need to start looking for functions that a platform would provide to you for a comprehensive compliance management and risk analysis. So the kind of things you should look for is, one is, do you have a choice in the way it's being implemented? Can it be implemented in the cloud, or does it need to be on premise? And most things are moving in the cloud, so that's typically a good choice, is where you have updates and changes that you take advantage of those right away. Another would be, is there a central data store or database that hosts the information that's being collected, along with standards, your results, actions, reports, and it goes on to be able to have that information so you can use it in a productive way. The next would be, can you collect the data you need using various methods, like stakeholder questionnaires, manual input of the data itself, collection via machine-to-machine communications, or what we commonly call API or machine-to-machine communications in the process of collecting that data? And can you reference and attach evidence to support the data itself? Often a very key area, but there's no easy way to do it. And especially with spreadsheets, there's no easy way to collect pieces of data that come from various sources. Another area that you'd want to look at is the ability to assess, validate, and monitor controls on a continuing basis. We talked about change, that also these things are a moving target. Everything's always changing. The other piece is not only assessing it and validating it, is being able to present it in a way to the contingent stakeholder. For an example would be, a C-level executive would want to see and typically only understand more of a concept of red light, green light. Am I compliant? Am I not? Is there a concern I need to address? Compliance managers want to see a roll-up view and details of compliance adherence, where technical folks would want to see what I call the speeds and feeds, or more of the technical data, or sometimes a combination of some of the others in addition. But it's important to represent the data in a way that your contingent audience understands it. The next thing would be standards and regulations and frameworks that come with the solution, that are ready to use or ready to take and be modified for your specific requirements. Most environments take well-known standards and regulations and they modify them somewhat to what they believe should be in place for their particular environment. And so it's great to have a starting point to move that forward. It reduces the amount of time and allows you to look where you stand quicker. The next would be standard to standard mapping, also referred commonly as checking once and complying with many requirements. In many times, you're checking a particular parameter that is the same across many requirements. And so you don't want to take the time to repeat that activity when you can do it once. A platform allows you to do that automatically. And if something changes, all those other regulations and standards, those parameters would also change. And so it's the continuation of looking at the risk posture or compliance posture. Rules-based administration, a very important one, is by allowing really different stakeholders to have privileges that determine what they can and can't do. And one would be, in some cases, you only want a particular stakeholder to see certain things of where you stand. And it could be all the way to giving it administrative capabilities to do anything from changing a standard to creating a report or changing what's represented in a report. But very important to be able to have rules-based access control. workflow and collaboration a very important part of a platform to determine, based on rules, do we do now, what do we do next, and allowing that in your collaboration. Another would be dashboarding and reporting, as we've talked about, is representing that data in a way that makes sense on a continuing basis. One of the other key parts of this, in many cases, that you're taking data from a significant amount of other data sources. In addition to just manual input, you're getting data from IT and non-IT solutions to determine where it is that your risk posture sits. And so it's important to have out of the box or built-in integrations with many third-party data sources. And to be able to take all this information and have it integrated in a single platform so you can have a single dashboard, or what we refer to as a single pane of glass, to use more functions and become more mature quicker with a reduction in the learning curve and getting value, because everything's all consolidated in that database. As you advance your efforts in compliance risk management, you don't have this large learning curve to decide what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, because you're using the same point and click functions that you are used to. And so a lot of that results in a solution that should provide quick time to value, allowing to communicate where you stand in a few weeks opposed to months or even longer. Simplicity in pricing is that many times you look at solutions and pricing is so complicated, it's hard even to get past that point to get the solution in and doing a prototype or up and running. Configurability is very important from the point of collecting information, representing it, adding it, and updating it. Is we live in such an agile environment, you want to be able to change with those changes in the environment. Results with a few mouse clicks or taps on a tablet or phone, very key. And being modular based, that allows an organization to grow as their needs change. Is many times is somebody may be starting with their compliance management, but has the plan to move later to more audit, internal audit functions, risk analysis, third-party vendor management, and that's to name a few. Is you want to start small, be able to grow without relearning anything. And so when you look at all these, that's a lot of things to consider in a solution. And you want it all very integrated. So if you take a look at a solution like Allgress, how could we potentially help? Is that, as you mentioned, Tom, and so Allgress provides a automation platform that integrates the entire process of what we talked about, of compliance management, risk analysis, third-party vendor management, remediation, incident management, policy lifecycle management, and it can go on and on, but being able to do it within a single pane of glass. And so another way that we can help is customer value achieved in a few weeks and not months. You can determine where you stand, and as time goes on, you figure what's specific for your environment and you can add it. But you're getting to see much quicker, where do I stand? Where do I need to make changes? You want to have a solution that is easy to acquire. And Allgress is, we do that by, we don't charge by user. We charge by function. Because many times an organization, they have no idea how many users they have that potentially could use a solution. You want focus on not only frameworks and standards, but industry verticals like finance, healthcare, government, retail. And that's just to mention a few, because the list continues to go on and on. And so one key thing to note, that as we're in this changing technological environment, especially moving to the cloud, Allgress was the first cloud-aware solution that brought cloud awareness in an integrated risk management platform for continuous compliance in the cloud. And so not only have we been recognized as a market leader from companies like Gartner, SC Magazine, Global Excellence Awards, and many others, I want to take a minute to mention a few quotes that were recently given by Gartner in their Magic Quadrant for IT Risk Management Solutions, which was released a few weeks ago. They pointed out some specifics about Allgress that we are very proud of, which included, they said our offering is differentiated in the market by its affordability, simple to understand pricing model, basic integrations, and time to implement the solutions. Another was being able to harmonize requirements, saving risk owners, assessors, and auditors time among their customer base and given compliance coverage the visibility that it needs. And last but not least is small to mid-sized organizations or larger organizations that are setting up their information technology risk management function, then being able to transition from spreadsheets should consider Allgress in their shortlists. And so is we would be happy to talk to organizations that would like to find out how can we help them reduce the impact of compliance for their specific requirements, and they can contact us one of a few different ways. One is our website at allgress.com. They could email us, and the email address would be info@allgress.com, or of course by phone at 888-264-1677. So in a concise way, I've tried to articulate what companies should look for and considerations for a platform as they want to innovate their organization and being better at the compliance function.
So, Jeff, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time, but I've been visiting today with Jeff Kushner. He is the Chief Marketing Officer at Allgress. It's been a fascinating exploration of innovation and compliance, but innovation in a way that I think helps you not only protect the company, but also move to a greater business efficiency and hopefully greater profitability. So, Jeff, thank you so much, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Tom.
If you're a compliance professional looking for a convenient and effective way to fulfill your continuing education requirements, go to fcpacompliancereport.com/courses and choose from 4 hour-long training packages that will keep you current. That's fcpacompliancereport.com/courses.